Hello and welcome to the Better Money Habits podcast. I'm your host, Terryanne Chebet. Now, after 2 years of the pandemic, a struggling economy, and an election period in sight, many have lost jobs, firms have slowed down on hiring, meaning incomes have been depleted. And now more than ever, we must rethink our finances. How do we get better at managing our personal finances? This Better Money Habits podcast is spearheaded by Tala in collaboration with DLAK. And the aim is to help young people prepare their foundations for future prosperity, talk to adults who have missed financial education earlier on an opportunity to shift gears and to accelerate towards a healthy relationship with money. And of course, Kenya's economically disenfranchised people out of deprivation. Today we discuss a simple yet critical aspect of how money works. How do you plan and spend your money? My guest today is Michael Thotho, who's a program manager at Centonomy. Michael, thank you so much for joining us for such an amazing topic. It's simple, but it is critical. Tell us, first things first, what are the basics of financial planning? If I'm thinking of my own personal finance plan, what should I be keeping in mind?
Terryanne, you're welcome and thank you for having me. First of all, I am glad, I am honored to be here, but most importantly, I am excited to be part of this conversation, right? Now, we should start planning for money now, okay? But unfortunately, this information is not out there, and that's why we as Centonomy come in, right? Now, at Centonomy, we are on a mission to shift the mindsets of purposeful people so that they can create wealth and live abundantly, all right? And we believe that true wealth is the ability to live and maintain the lifestyle that you desire without having to work for it. So I'm going to ask you this question, Terryanne. Was it everyone that was affected by the pandemic?
No.
Yes, there are those who were not affected. The wealthy were not affected, right? There are people who still, maintained their lifestyle. There are people who still, lived where they are living or where they were living, drove the same cars they were driving, right? Despite of, what was happening. So not everyone was affected. So we need to be also part of those people who will not be affected by, such things like emergencies, a pandemic, or as you're saying, an election, right? So what we can start doing now is start planning, right? And it's a good thing we have in this discussion now, it being, the year being fairly new, right? So, first things first, the first thing we should always do is pay ourselves first, all right? And it's not what you're thinking to to tell yourself sorry. It means save and invest. So when you get money or an income from whichever source, be it so long as it is legit, be it a salary, if you're employed, be it if your business pays you, and also if you're in campus, if you're young and your source of income is an allowance or pocket money, you should start the habit of saving now, right? So regardless of who you are, where you are at in life, let's start saving and investing now, right? Let's not wait for something to happen for it to tell us, wow, I should have been planning. Right?
How do we discipline ourselves to ensure that we're saving? For most of us, at least for me, I look at my savings as something I started off very late in my career. Yet there was the opportunity to start when I was in college.
Yep.
So are there ways in which we can discipline ourselves to save better?
Yes, there are. And one of the first things that you should do is you should attach a goal to your saving, all right? So don't just save for the sake of saving. Don't save because Michael from Centonomy is telling you to save. No. Save for a goal, save for a purpose, okay? Now, I believe that the first thing that you should be saving for is an emergency, right? And we call that an emergency fund. So start by saving for an emergency fund. And an emergency fund is just that money that you've kept aside in case something happens, right? And we say that an emergency fund should be 6 months of your monthly lifestyle, right? So if your monthly lifestyle is 100,000, you should have at least 600,000 somewhere, sitting safe, okay? If it's 50, you multiply by 6, okay? Whatever your lifestyle is, have 6 times of that. Okay, somewhere safe, in case something happens. Pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen, but we are praying for things to go right, but we also need to plan for if things don't go well, right? So save for an emergency, right, through an emergency fund, okay? And then after that, save for a goal, save for a purpose, so that now you have a reason to be saving. And now this reason will now dictate or tell you how much you should save and for how long you should save.
What reasons, or what type of goals, or what kind of reasons should we be saving for? For somebody who hasn't saved before, or somebody who who's not sure what to save for, what are some of the things that they can look at?
It cuts across board. It could be anything. You could be saving to buy a phone. You could be saving for retirement. It just depends on where you are at in life and what you really want to do, what you want to achieve. You could be saving for a house, for a car, saving for education, for your children. Yes, it could be anything, but have that goal. Now, that goal should now be driving you towards saving. I say that saving for the sake of saving is boring. So you should have something that excites you, a reason that excites you, that motivates you to save, that when money hits your account, you're even smiling when you're taking it to a savings account. You're smiling because, I am saving for a trip to the Maldives. You get? I am saving to take my kids to Harvard.
I really like that, because then working backwards from it, if you say, for instance, I want a phone that will cost me 120,000.
Yes.
I have 3-4 months or 5 months to save for it. I know
how much I'll
save X amount.
Yes.
Oh wow.
So a goal, you have what you're saving for, and when, and now how much you need. So now you calculate how much you need to save every day, every month. If it is retirement, every year, you have a figure. So have a figure, right? So have a goal, and then that goal should have a figure. A phone worth 20,000 in 5 months, okay? Have that figure. A trip to the Maldives worth 150,000 next year in December. Retirement in 20 years' time, have a goal. A house in 10 years' time, have a goal. And that goal, have a figure to it, so that now that figure guides you. So I should be saving X amount every month for this number of years.
And where do you put that money? So I'll say I'll put in 5,000 shillings per month for this phone that I want to buy.
Yes.
Where do I put the money? Do I put it in a sacco? Do I put it in my mobile wallet? Where do I put it?
Right. Now, for the sake of an emergency, we say that this money you should put it where you can easily access it, okay? Easily accessible, okay? So we do not advocate that you invest for an emergency, right? Like you put some money somewhere, maybe you buy an investment instrument for an emergency. No. Because you see, when you're doing that, you're sacrificing your money, and you will not be able to access that money if and when you need it, okay? So a simple savings account can do that for an emergency, okay? Now, for other things, we can look at other places where we will need to give it time for it to grow, and then also time for you to withdraw your money, okay? Now, for the sake of an emergency, again, you can put it in a savings account that tomorrow you can just walk into the bank and you get your money, all right? Good. Now, let me mention this. You should have at least 2 bank accounts, okay? One being your current account, where you do your day-to-day things with, your day-to-day expenses, your transport, your food, your rent, all these things that you do on a daily basis, your credit, all these things that you do on a daily basis, that you buy on a daily basis, have that money in a current account, okay? And then have money also in a savings account. So separate your finances. You cannot be saving and investing in the same account that you're using, that you're removing money to go and pay rent or buy groceries, okay? So separate your money, have at least 2 bank accounts, okay? Now, let's start from there first, right? These 2 bank accounts can be a simple current account and a simple savings account, right? Now, later, we can now start thinking about other types of accounts or other types of instruments where we can put our money. For instance, we have a call deposit account, we have a fixed deposit account. Now, you see these two types of accounts that I've just mentioned, before you getting your money, it will take some time, okay? They'll tell you need 2 to 4 working days, okay? So you see, that doesn't help you in case of an emergency. When an emergency happens, you need the money now, right? But for these other things that we're saving for a trip or for a phone or for retirement, we can now look at other places where we can be saving that money. Yes.
Tell us about budgeting, because it is more or less the first place that we need to start. And I know there's many rules and suggestions and percentages on how to go about it. And sometimes all this can be very confusing. How do we go about budgeting, and how can we budget in a smarter way?
Right, great. Now, a budget is simply a tool that helps you plan for your money. And I say this, if you don't have a plan for your money, someone else will have a plan for your money, right? So you need to have a plan for your money. Tell your money where to go. Instruct your money. Tell your money, go here, go to my savings, go to my rent, go to my these expenses, Instruct your money, tell your money where to go, right? And a budget will help you do that. Right, now, a budget has two sides. That's side number one being the money coming in, and the other being money going out. In short, income and now expenses, right? Rule of thumb number one is that your income should always be more than your expenses, all right? So the money coming in should always be more than money going out. Rule of thumb, okay? If it's the other way around, then that means that you're living beyond your means, and you will find or you will get other ways of getting money that are not so good. For example, now that's when people get into debt, okay? Because you are living beyond your means. Your expenses are more than what is coming in, okay? So rule number one, have a plan for your money, a budget. A budget has two sides, income and expenses. Income should always be more than your expenses, all right? Now, we are advised that we should have many sources of income, okay? Have many sources of income, okay? So that if one is affected, the other one can take over, right? It's not easy, but yes, it's something that we need to think about, okay? And when you have assets, these assets can now be other sources of income. An asset can be an investment, can be a business, okay? So that could be another source of income, all right? Now, expenses is where we now need to look at, because this can be overwhelming, right? So we need to manage them. And we need to know that not all expenses are the same, or we should treat them the same, okay? So there are those expenses that you need to prioritize, and there are those ones that you actually even need to cut, okay? Like food, shelter, you need to prioritize those. Others you need to cut, okay? Now, for the people listening, I know you know yourself, and I know you know what you should be cutting, in your expenses, right? Yes. So not all expenses are the same. So you should not treat all expenses the same. So there are those that you need to prioritize, and then there are those that you need to absolutely cut. Yes. So when we start that way, we are now, starting this, having this better money habits.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's interesting you say that. I was seeing on Twitter a gentleman at the beginning of the year who said he wants to save better this year. And one of the things that he was thinking of was cutting off expenses from a drinks perspective. So he says every time he'll spend 2,000 shillings on a bottle of wine, he'll send 2,000 shillings to his investment account, to his savings account, which I found very interesting. And I said, I'm jumping on that, bandwagon as well. Are there tips that you can give, our audience in terms of budgeting? Because many people say, what I get is so little that I don't know if I'm going to be able to save anything at all.
Now, that's another misconception that people have. They say, I do not have enough to save. I don't have enough to budget plan for. What happens is, when you say you don't have enough, when you're given a promotion or a raise, and you don't have this discipline from when you are, not earning that money, then the habits continue, okay? So regardless of what you're earning, you should be able to save. You should be able to plan for it, okay? Now, what happens is, Fortunately, you work hard in your job or your business, so you increase your income. What tends to happen is people tend to increase their expenses, right? All of a sudden, your house has become too small. You can feel the walls of you can touch the walls of your kitchen, But a month before, when you were still earning that money, you were good in that house. But just because you've gotten a raise so all of a sudden you need to increase. No, the first thing you should increase is your savings and investments, okay? And then gradually you can increase your lifestyle, okay? But we say increase your lifestyle if you have other things paying you. Remember what I said wealth is? The ability to live and maintain the lifestyle you desire without having to work for it. Now, I know the others who are saying, how is that possible? It is possible if you have assets paying you, if you have other things paying you, like you have a business that pays you, you have investments that give you a return, right? Now, those are the things that we are saying you should have that will also pay you, so that you don't rely only on that source of income that you have. You have multiple sources of income. Yes.
Tell us about credit or access to credit.
Yes.
And now more than ever, there's so much that we are able to get, whether it's a mobile money credit.
Yes.
If you have a good credit score, it's easy to get money from the bank as an individual. And I remember somebody telling me that the first, you are only allowed, and I'm saying allowed in quotes, to buy your first car using a bank loan, for instance. And every other car after that, you have to buy it in cash. So I'm just curious about all these, rules that govern how to access credit. Is credit good at all? What is good credit? If somebody says, there's this amazing chair you can buy at 300,000 shillings, but you can lipa pole pole, pay slowly through a bank loan. What are some of the things that we need to keep in mind, knowing that it's easy to, get something on your phone in a minute?
That's a misconception, first of all, when you say that the first car that you buy should buy it on a loan. No, right? We advise that you save for it. You remember when you're talking about savings? Save for purpose, save for that car, right? Yes. Now, when you are accessing credit, and it's a double-edged sword. It's good and it's bad, right? It's good because, access to money is good, right? But now the other side of it is, what are you doing with that money, right? It's easily accessible, but what are you doing with it? We advise that if you're taking on a credit facility, that it should be working for you. First of all, it should be able to pay itself back, okay? Yes, so that means that whenever you're taking on a credit facility, this money should be put towards something that will help you grow, something that will also pay it back with also some interest, because when you get credit, you're not going to return the same money. You'll return plus something on top, okay? So whatever you're taking the money for should be able to cater for that, and then also cater for the interest that should be charged for that money, right? So whenever you're considering taking on a credit facility alone, yes, always know where you're putting that loan towards, okay? So that you're not taking the loan to finance your lifestyle. We do not advocate for that, and it's not correct, okay?
Let's talk about investing.
Yes.
We've talked about savings. We've mentioned investing.
Yes.
But it can be very blurry for somebody who has not invested before. And there's so much, now we're seeing crypto. We're seeing a resurge in stocks.
Yes.
And also as Kenyans, we're doing that thing of people are opening liquor stores, I'm going to open a liquor store.
Yep.
We're selling quails, I'm going to sell quails.
Yes.
So when we think of investment, what are some of the things that we must keep in mind?
Right, good. Now, savings comes first, and saving is you're just putting money aside, right? And you're not really hoping that this money will increase. Okay? If it increases, good. But now, when you're investing, you're putting this money aside with the hope that it increases. Okay? Now, that's the difference between saving and investing. Okay? But on this other side of investing, there's something called risk involved. Okay? So that's why we start with saving. Now, we say that an investment should also be guided by a goal. Remember, I'm saying this and I will say this again. Have a goal. This goal will now tell you what to do where to put your money, how much to put. The same when it comes to investing. Now, we have identified 3 goals that can help you know where to put your money. The first one being capital preservation, the second one being income, the third one being capital growth. And I want to say this, and I've said it again, finance people are not so creative. So what I've said is exactly that. When I say capital preservation, I mean exactly that. What I put, I want to preserve it. I don't want it to increase. I don't want it to decrease. I want it there. And that's what we are talking about, like savings, okay? I'm putting 10,000 here. Tomorrow I want that 10,000. Next week I want that 10,000. Next month I want that 10,000. I don't want it necessarily to increase, but at least to be preserved, right? That's goal number 1, capital preservation. And this is, for example, the things we're talking about. Rent, because rent doesn't just increase like that. You have a lease agreement with the landlord that rent will be X amount for this year, right? So that money, you don't really necessarily need to invest it, okay? The same for, groceries. Yeah, put it in a capital preservation, a savings account, right? Good. That's number 1. Number 2 is income. Income simply means money coming in. And for instance, your salary is an income. The thing about income is it needs to be consistent, okay? Like your salary comes in every end month, all right? Those who are not salaried but they have a wage, they are paid every day or every week, end week. That's called income. It is consistent, so you can plan. I know at the end of the week, I'll have money. At the end of the month, I'll have money, okay? Now, there are investments also that can give you income, okay? And now, these investments that give you income are good, especially for people who are thinking now about retirement, because the number 1 problem in retirement, and we say this again and again, is income. There is no that continuous source of income. So when you retire, you will need to have to put money where you'll be getting income. Okay, so if you want somewhere that gives you income, there are places that you can put your money. The first one being, you can invest in a treasury bond. The second one, being an African, a Kenyan favorite, is real estate. You can invest, be a landlord, and you're paid every month. You see, that's now what we're calling income. Okay. Now, the third goal is capital growth. Okay, and this is what you had mentioned: quail eggs. Capital growth now means I am putting 10,000 here. I want this 10,000 to grow to 15 to 20,000. Okay, I need this money to grow. Okay, and I say this: you should have money in all these 3 areas that I'm talking about. Have some money in capital preservation. Have some money in income. Have some money in capital growth. We are always told, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, so don't put all your money in savings. Okay, yes, there is some money that needs to grow. Again, because of this thing called inflation, that we cannot, cannot avoid inflation, right? So we are aware that inflation is just the constant increase in prices of goods and services. Okay, when we were younger, we were buying bread, cheaply, 20 shillings. Right now it's 55 shillings, okay, for us here in Kenya. So, and don't expect that tomorrow bread will be 40 shillings, no. Next year it will increase, yeah. So, you see, for that purpose, we need to grow our money. And that's the third option when it comes to investments. An investment that grows your capital, okay, so that you can beat this thing called inflation, all right? Now, capital growth is where the magic happens, but also it is where you need, first of all, the most involvement, because, like you're talking about a business. A business is a good place that for a good example of capital growth. What is a business? It's just you identifying, a need and you providing or giving a solution to that need. For example, I go downtown, I buy, something at X amount, and then I come uptown and I increase by Y amount. So I've gotten an increase, okay? That's it. My capital has grown. So maybe I go buy a pen at 10 shillings, I come sell it at 20 shillings. My capital has grown from 10 to 20, right? But remember, here is where there is most involvement. Here is where there is most risk, okay? Involvement being I need to go downtown and buy the pen myself, right? And then come sell it at 20. Risk now being, I've bought this pen at 10, and now need to get a customer to buy it at 20, right? I also need my pen to be working, right? Because if I come and my pen is not working, I will not sell it at 20. You get? So there is that thing called risk, okay? But again, this is where your money has the highest potential to grow. Another area is, like you're talking about shares, right? You can buy shares in publicly listed companies. You can buy a share today at 5 shilling. Tomorrow it is 20 shillings. Your capital has grown from 5 to 20. But then there is risk, okay? Not all shares are growing. You can buy a share today at 5, tomorrow it is 3 shillings, okay? So there is that aspect of risk. And we say high risk, high potential of return. So the return is not always guaranteed, okay? But it is the potential that drives us to put our money here, okay? So whenever you're putting your money in these capital growth areas, always know that there is that risk, okay? So high risk, high potential of return, okay? So the return is not always guaranteed, okay? But again, if the return is there, then it works good for all of us. If I buy a pen at 10, I'll sell it at 20. Good. If I buy a share at 5, I sell it at 15. It has worked for me, right? Mm-hmm. But there's always that aspect of risk. That's why you should not put your rent money in these options we're calling capital growth, because we do not want to risk with rent money. So that's why rent money, I said, you put it where? In capital preservation. Okay? Your child's education, school fees, you don't want to risk with that. Okay? So we put it where? Capital preservation. But again, don't have all your money in one basket. Have some here, capital preservation, some in income, some in capital growth.
Michael, as we come to an end of our conversation today, yes, we're in an election year, and that always comes with some anxiety. From a financial planning point of view, are there tips that you can share with our audience?
Yes, thank you, Terryanne. Now, yes, we are in that year. We are in mid-pandemic, so there are a lot of jitters going around. So we need to be, now is the time we need to be very prudent with our money, with our spending. Okay, so right now is the best time to start planning for that emergency I'm talking about. If you don't have an emergency fund, right now is the best time to start saving for one, right? Because we don't know what will happen, but we are hoping for the best. But we never know what will happen, so let's start, saving for whatever eventuality might happen, right? And then we can also start doing other, let's say, I don't want to use small, but yeah, there are other simple things that you can start doing. For example, you can start, tracking your spending, each and every money, each and every coin, each and every shilling that leaves your wallet, that leaves your bank account, that leaves your M-Pesa, just note it down. Where has it gone? X amount gone here, write it down. Y amount gone here, write it down, note it down. Have all the money that leaves your wallets, your M-Pesa, your pockets, note it down, know where it is going, okay? And then later on, come and review, and then ask yourself, okay, I spent this on this. Is there a better way I could have spent this money, right? Now, no matter how small it is, write it down, note it down, because these small amounts, when you add them up, they are substantial, all right? It could be 20 shillings today, but 20 shillings every week is 140 shillings, right? So for you, it could be, I just buy gum for 20 shillings every day. But you're not aware that that gum that you're buying for 20 shillings a day is 140 shillings a week, and now you can do, imagine, multiply by 52 for the number of weeks in a year. That's a lot of money, right? Absolutely. So ask yourself, is there a better place that I can put this money, right? But you can never know, not unless you have tracked, you have written it down so that, you're now aware. So I spend this money here. Is there a better way I can spend this money, right? A good example we give is for guys who are employed and they are able to afford lunch every day. It could be buying lunch, 300 shillings lunch every day. Some people do that, okay? You're thinking, it's just 300 shillings. But let me tell you this, 300 shillings a day at the end of the year is 108,000. Now, if you ask me, I'd rather carry packed lunch and then save this 300, and then at the end of the year, I go for a trip. You see, I'm still spending, but I'm spending on something else that is more fulfilling. Okay? Yes. So let's start tracking the money that leaves our accounts, so that first of all, we are aware of our money habits. That also helps us to, we are human beings, and sometimes our emotions, dictate where we spend our money. You could be having a bad day, and then you decide, let me go buy ice cream to feel better. And this, when you track, you're able to now say, wow, I bought ice cream 5 times this month. And then when you look at the time and the date, and then you remember, okay, someone annoyed me, So you'll know, okay, so when I'm annoyed, someone annoys me, there's this amount that goes. So you're aware, first of all, okay? Because it could be happening and you don't know. So this act of tracking, it helps us know where our money goes, so that we are aware. And then now they say when it comes to change, awareness is the number one thing. So you're aware, now you need to change because you know this is what you do, okay? So we can start tracking our spending, so that each and every shilling, no matter how small, just note it down, because again, these small amounts, when you add them up, they are substantial, okay? And then what we can also do, we can start now saving for assets, okay? And these assets are what I started by saying that are going to fund us, so that we are able to live this lifestyle without having to work, because we have assets working for us. Example of these assets could be the investments you're talking about, could be the business, right? Yes. So now, when it comes to assets, remember, an asset should be something that puts money in your pockets. An asset should be something that increases in value over time. So if you have something that you've been thinking it's an asset, but it takes money from your pockets, then it's not really an asset. I told my mother that her house is not an asset, and she was not so happy. But I told her, Mom, yeah, you take money to maintain the house. Yes, I know you have removed the expense of rent from your budget, but this house, not unless you rent it out, it is not giving you money. I know we are Africans, and we like our homes. That's what many people are planning to. Even I am planning to have my own home, but at least I am aware that home, not unless I rent it out, is not an asset. Again, the cars that we drive to work, and you park it in the parking, and then jioni, in the evening, you drive it back home. It's not an asset, okay? But it's not a bad thing to have. I have a car, but I am aware it is not an asset, okay? I am aware it just helps me to do things, to move from point A to point B, but I have planned for it. I have planned for its expenses, for its fuel, for its maintenance, for its insurance. I know. So it is actually taking money away from my pockets. I know that, so I plan for it, okay? So that's why I'm saying focus on assets, and these assets are things that put money in your pockets. That business, that investment that you're going to put and then you're going to get money in return is an asset, yes.
Wow, thank you, Michael. This has been an amazing masterclass. I should say that a lot to learn. Thank you for the tricks, the tips, and the advice on how we can be better money managers and how we can get better money habits.
You're welcome.
You have been listening to Better Money Habits podcast, powered by Tala and DLAK, that's the Digital Lenders Association of Kenya. And I've been speaking with Michael Thotho. Michael is a program manager at Centonomy. This podcast aims to empower you with knowledge and information that will enable you become financially independent and to create wealth. I am Terryanne Chebet. Thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.